It's going to be one of those days. Okay guys, welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. My name is Nick and today we are going to be diving down into the world of Cardano. We're going to be talking about the FUD, we're going to be talking about the bad, and we're going to be talking about the good in the space for Cardano. There's a lot to kind of unpack here, lots of things to kind of think about, consider. So as we get into it, if you find it useful, informative, maybe entertaining at times, hit the like button. I do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Now, if you have not yet joined us in Discord, the link is in the description down below. It's a fantastic community talking crypto 24/7. It's completely free, and I don't think you'll be disappointed by what you find down there. We actually cover a lot more in the Discord server than we do here on the YouTube channel, so well worth checking it out if you haven't done so already. In the description below, you'll find a whole host of additional links and promotions and various other stuff, so why not check that out as well while you're there. Let's get into this though. I don't want this to be an overly lengthy video. We'll just want to kind of touch on what's been going on in the space, some of which you'll know already, some of which sounds scarier than it actually is, and yeah, let's get into it. Let's do it. Let's take a look at the aptly chosen and, you know, just choice for words are quite poor, but nonetheless, Cardano testnet is catastrophically broken, and of course that's going to be the headline, right? That's going to get the click, that's going to get the view. But let's break it down. Let's actually, you know, go down into what's going on here, the nuts and the bolts of it, and then discuss, right? Let's talk about the facts rather than the fiction, right? We can obviously just look at a title, look at a thumbnail, look at something in a headline, and assume we know what's going on without actually knowing. So let's go ahead. Basically, we're talking about Andine, who is really kind of, you know, one of the bedrock, I guess, of Cardano in a roundabout way, which is a really, you know, strong player in the space. And for him to come out and say this is an interesting one. But the choice of words is probably what is probably misunderstood, and probably also coming across worse than maybe it is. There are some bad points in here, and we can't ignore those. We're going to go into it, right? So first of all, we're talking about this tweet. And obviously the article is going to pick and choose things that are worth noting, and then obviously they're going to relate it to price, and we're going to talk about that. But basically, the topic of conversation is that it's important to point out today that the Cardano testnet is catastrophically broken due to a bug in Cardano node version 1.35.2, which this was the version that we had previously been told was tested and ready for the 𝗲𝗲 hard fork. This bug was only discovered. So basically, there's a bug in the code, the testnet, that had been missed. And this goes back to when I was saying there was delays, and delays were actually potentially good. This is that example, okay? So when we rush things and we try to push things through because we want to hit certain milestones, things fall through the cracks. And as a result, this obviously fell through the cracks. But the good news is that 𝗲𝗲 did not have its hard fork when it was actually scheduled. And in fact, it was still in testnet. And of course, it wasn't tested and ready, or it was tested, missed this little area here within the code. And I'm obviously just glancing over that in a really broad way, so apologies. But basically, let's just hypothetically say that it's been skipped over, missed, forgotten about, whatever, and it's been discovered. It's been discovered because it's still in the testnet environment, not on the mainnet. If this happened on the mainnet, we'd be in a much different position, and things would be catastrophically bad, right? And I'd use that word specifically, but obviously I jest a little bit. It's pretty bad. Okay, it's bad because, you know, yes, it's gotten to this point where in theory it should have potentially been found during the testnet process. Obviously it has been found during the testnet process, but obviously we're reflecting on the fact that this should have already gone out, right? So in hindsight, if it had obviously hit the mainnet, we would have problems, but because it's on the testnet, we can fix it, right? So there's good, there's bad, and there's good again, because yes, it should have been found. Maybe someone missed it. That's fine to a point. Okay, whatever happens there happens there. I'm not going to unpack that scenario. But what we are going to say is that it's good that we did delay the Cardano hard fork, and that it didn't reach the mainnet. It's on the testnet still. A new bug was found. We can fix the new bug. Fantastic. So testnet's doing what the testnet is designed to do, although there are obviously the obvious issues that which potentially could have hit the mainnet because it was missed. So this is a potential issue, right? It's a big issue, and when you say catastrophically broken, we can dive down and we can talk about what's going on there. The testnet is still broken due to the majority of operators having to upgrade to 1.35.2 on testnet to simulate the 𝗕𝗂𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘 hard fork event. Their 1.35.3 is now incompatible and incapable of syncing the chain. Legacy installations are still on one fork or another. So they're talking about it, but they haven't really broken down exactly what's going on in this article. But we can come to the tweet, right? We can actually take a look at the thread from Adam here and actually break down what's going on, right? It's a pretty lengthy-ish one, I guess. But let's break it in, right? So because operators rushed to upgrade on mainnet, it was created incompatible forks and causing a decrease to chain density. Kudos to these particular stake pool, the 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘 stake pool and pool tools, or pool tool. Double L there, for doing the research on the on-chain data to identify 1.35.2 version and obviously the 1.34.1 as the culprits. However, the testnet is still broken due to the majority of the operators having upgraded to 1.3.52 on testnet to simulate obviously the 𝗕𝗂𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘 hard fork event. Their 1.35.3 is now incapable or incompatible, I should say, and incapable of syncing the chain. Legacy installations we spoke about, right? So cherry picking out now. From here, we are now testing 1.35.3 on two new testnets that do have a block history like testnet, having gone through all previous Cardano hard fork combinator events there, or a simulation of multi-node version block of the on-chain. Now, to say that this level of rushing gives me uneasy feeling is an understatement. If there were a nuclear clock for Cardano, we got close to basically hitting midnight, as he says there. Now, I'm calling on 𝗖𝗢𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘 Charles, 𝗖𝗢𝗠𝗪𝗔𝗠𝗠𝗘 to develop and deploy the tooling necessary to disaster recovery, the testnet as described here. So interesting stuff, right? So for the most part, what are we actually talking about? Well, if they had actually pushed through and rushed things to market, let's say like Solana, then on the mainnet would potentially be the issue here that could be catastrophic in the real world for real ADA users and real projects building on the ecosystem. Fortunately, because they didn't, and they had that good kind of thought process to make sure that they had an 80% liquidity pooling ready for the hard fork combinator event, that actually delayed the potential release of this issue. So now they can fix it on the testnet and start moving forward and slow things down a tad, okay? There's no need to rush right now. In fact, it's better to kind of take our time and deliver what we know Cardano can do. Okay, so this is hopefully be a bit of a flash warning. This is the kind of thing that happens when you rush and you're not methodical about the things you're doing. And this isn't to blame one or two people, but obviously the whole entire Cardano ecosystem and community, they are quite impatient. I say the whole, let's see, the pockets of loud vocal minority are really impatient, right? And there's all those jokes and all those nonsense about Cardano and all that stuff. One of the things I think I really want to stress in this video is that it's okay to be slower if you're delivering a project and code that is, proven and tested and doesn't have bugs in it. What we don't want to do is end up in a situation where you end up like Solana, right? And you're constantly going offline. There's constant issues, constant bugs that you're having to fix, and potentially costing people money, right? And significant amounts of it. The same thing happened with Ethereum in the early days. Rushing a product to market is never a good idea. Being peer-reviewed, taking a slow, methodical approach to it is the way forward. That's why I like Cardano. So let's slow things down. Let's not rush. And there's no need to put a hard fork out right now during this bear market where we are going down lower, in my opinion. Well, I'm going to talk about the price action of ADA in a second. Okay, so let's jump on back in to, not that button, this button here. There we go. So the other part of this article that was bothering me is they start to talk about the price tanking 8%. The entire market moved down, including Cardano. It was not ADA's price tanking 8%, and Cardano's price did not tank specifically because this happened. Okay, the entire market corrected down as per what I've been talking about for weeks. Okay, so none of that is anything to do with Cardano. The price moved with the rest of the market. Absolutely nothing to do with this bug being found. And the very notion of the concept of the idea of that is just a bit laughable in my opinion. But let's move on outside of this article and move over into the next one. Okay, and I don't know what they titled this one. Better than ever, says developer who pointed out the testnet issues. So, Adam meets Adam. Okay, so what's Adam talking about this time around? So, basically the testnet Vasil hard fork, all these kind of tagging and all that kind of stuff, and all the stuff that's going on here. Basically, he is talking about it being better than ever. And let's try again, as Charles is saying. If you're an SPO, then please start the upgrade path to 1.35.3 is heavily tested and more likely blah, blah, blah. So in a nutshell, it's positive news, okay, because this means that we get more testing and we're stronger than we ever have been before because we've been able to find out what's been going on. So, you know, basically Adam Dean, who flagged the testnet issues in the up-and-coming Vasil hard fork, has shared a screenshot of his most recent Vasil testing, which he tagged building together stronger, better than ever. Okay, and you kind of get that idea from everything that's going on here. So, you know, some positive news. Moving on again, we also have Charles Hoskinson saying that Cardano is his greatest passion. And he's basically saying here, quoted, you know, underscoring his commitment to the project. He isn't going anywhere. Okay, and this is really important. He believes that Cardano will affect billions of people's lives, which is, you know, a huge milestone in itself to push that high and that far. So, you know, kudos to anyone wanting to kind of change the world at that scale. That is not an easy task. And if there's going to be a blockchain technology that's going to do it, there's only really a handful of them, right? We can look at things like Ethereum. We can look at things like Bitcoin. We can look at things like XRP, would love it or hate it. Stellar XLM, Cardano. I'm running out of projects, maybe Solana in the future, right? And essentially, you know, there's not that many real big heavy hitters in the space that are going to potentially change vast a number of people's lives, right? Whether that becomes 1 billion, whether that becomes 2 billion, I don't know. Whether we are just talking about 500 million, you know, that stuff is all kind of way off in the future. But, you know, in terms of blockchain technology that's actually able to deliver that, I do think Cardano fits that model. Okay, specifically, if we go back to what I was saying earlier, we take the time to be methodical, we take the time to do the research and actually develop, and do not release something or rush something to the point where we're delivering a bad piece of code that could catastrophically affect, you know, 1 billion people's lives. Okay, that would be brutally bad, right? So it's important that we take the time. This is not something that we want to be rushing. This is something that we want to take the time to push forward and develop at a good pace. So I think this is good news. This is all positive. Moving on, what have we got over this side? I forget actually what I've actually picked out here. Oh yeah, that was right. So the latest updates on the state of things for the Vasil hard fork, right? This came out on the 20th, so we're talking 2 days ago. So you guys are probably going to be familiar with this, but I did actually bring it up from the blog side here. So the development report. So, you know, we've got various different things going on, the core technology, the wallets and services. I'll link all of this into the description down below. I won't read it and bore you guys on the video with all these kind of ins and outs, but it's worth reading and understanding where they are, what they're doing, and all those kind of really good things. And kind of the metrics behind it, right? There's 5.8 million native tokens here. There's token policies of 60,000. There's 3,000 Plutus scripts. There's 2,600 GitHub commits. You know, there's a lot going on when it comes to Cardano. And when you start comparing Cardano at these kind of stat levels to other projects, you start to realize that actually the community behind Cardano is absolutely smashing it, and they're smashing the targets no end. So well worth checking that out. Okay, let's carry on though. It is one thing I want to talk about a little bit ahead of if this is going to work. Yeah, the price action. Let me make this a little bit bigger here. Right, so we are going to talk about what's going on with the price action, and of course we are going to unpack why the price moved down, which had absolutely nothing to do with the fundamental news. I know people will want to say that that's what's going on there, but it isn't. The entire space moved down at the same time. You can't say that Cardano's testnet issues caused the entire crypto market to correct down. That's not what's going on here. There's a good reason as to why this moved the way it did, and where I think it's going next as well. But let's go ahead and jump into this here, right? So Cardano faces pressure from whales. Now, this is interesting because something that we often talk about on this channel is, what are the whales doing? What are the sharks doing? What are the dolphins doing? What are retail versus really large wealthy individuals or institutional players doing in terms of Bitcoin and Ethereum? But we often skip over things for the altcoins, right? There are a few altcoins that are quite clearly on the hit list for some really wealthy individuals, right? So Cardano whales have been buying the absolute dip. I want to swear, but I'm not going to. Basically, they've been buying this dip, and they've been buying it incredibly well. They did this. This is not the first time they've done this either. So basically, over this end, over here, they were buying this dip to the downside really, really well, right? This is 40.19 originally on this side here. So we actually double tapped that area, by the way, guys. So as you can see, we kind of saw a huge amount of accumulation. This straight move to the upside here, and again down here, right? Serious volume of ADA was being purchased. Now, in terms of the price action of everything that's been going on, we should reflect that all we've got from an Elliott wave theory point of view, as in we're tracking the psychology and the behavior of people who are buying and selling cryptocurrency, and specifically in this case ADA. What we're tracking here is their behavior. Everything moves in 3 or 5 wave structures, okay, and those relate to the Fibonacci numbers. So when we get into, let's say, the top of a 3-wave move where we're really high on those fib numbers, we know that the market is going to correct in the opposite direction, right? This is something that I've been talking about for a while with Cardano, maybe moving up towards our higher range target between 60.28 and 61.5. Yes, we fell a little bit short of that, but you can kind of see this was going to be the upper end. Our actual box where we've been talking about high significant pressure coming in at 54.89 to 61.48, right? So we know that this was the area that we're likely to see a lot of pressure, specifically in terms of selling. And then we're having this refined area just at the top here between 60.28 and 61.5, which we kept close to, but we did not hit. Okay, now we see this drop. This drop is a 5-wave drop. This is a different structure to what was going on up. So on the way up, we have a 3-wave structure, corrective in the way it works, and basically a short term, not a trend. 5-wave structures are deeper and usually represent trends, as in they're impulsive in the way that they work. People are either really greedy and the candles are moving up rapidly, or they're in extreme amounts of fear as that market moves back down. Now, this particular structure is exactly the same as what Ethereum has run. It's exactly the same as what Bitcoin has run, and it is exactly the same as pretty much every other altcoin out there that is doing something similar. So, I mean, I say pretty much. Caveat, not all are following the same path. Do check me out on the live streams for altcoins. We go through several different structures in there, but for the most part, what we are talking about here is a significant drop to the downside where we are looking for more downward price pressure, okay, before we even get a relief bounce, which I do think is coming in due course, as in we're about to kind of enter into the world where we can move on up ever so slightly. Okay, now with a 5-wave structure, we see 5 down. We would be looking for 3 waves to counter that. Okay, so 5 waves down, 3 waves up in this particular case. Once we do that, this 3-wave structure should stay below the origin level, so we should not go higher than the local high, which comes in at approximately 59.48. Okay, so from that high point, we shouldn't really go any higher than that. So the 3-wave bounce can move up, but shouldn't be too high. 50 to 88% possibly, in terms of retracement of this entire 5-wave structure, would then put us in line for a wave 2. But I'm expecting an ABC, which would be a zigzag or a 5-3-5. So we have 3 waves up, we have 5 waves come down, and the 5-wave move down takes us into my little yellow box area down here for accumulation between 28 and 34 cent. That there would be the best case scenario. Of course, with a 5-wave structure, we could be talking about trending to the downside, in which case we're talking about 22.23 or potentially even as low as 15.46. Seems bonkers, seems crazy, might not happen. But, you know, the structures are the structures, they play out. These are just how people are currently getting involved with Cardano and our expectations on the wider market. So ultimately here, the pullback in price action is aligned to the rest of the crypto space, nothing unusual there. And the structure is pretty much what I've been talking about for weeks upon weeks upon weeks about this accumulation zone at 28.26. And this goes way back into June, right? So when we started bouncing up here, we were talking about good accumulation points. We are actually talking about 2.223 for quite some time. And that's on a bigger macro structure from a larger kind of perspective. If I pull this up into an 8-hour chart, for example, you can kind of see that what we might be looking at here on a much, much bigger scale is some kind of ABC zigzag spanning multiple years. Okay, so it's hypothetical to say something like that effect. Okay, so there's a lot of things to kind of think about, lots of things to kind of concern ourselves with, but I think, you know, I'm not stressed about it, I'm not worried about it. I think Cardano should slow things down. There's no need to rush a upgrade during these kind of bearish structured points. Otherwise, we keep getting labeled up as sell the news events for Cardano. So I'd like to see things take their time. I don't want to rush the product to market. I want the product to be functional and absolutely fantastic when it launches, right? There's no point in launching something if we're not 100% squeaky clean on that code. And so I'd rather the time was taken to go over it with a fine-tooth comb whilst we allow the market to move and correct down as we expect. And then once this market's ready and it starts moving up, trending up, maybe that's a better time to do a hard fork. Maybe that's a better time to really start thinking about getting some good momentum behind the price. Do a hard fork under a bullish environment rather than a bearish one, and really take the time to get any issues corrected. That's my 2 pennies on the recent scenarios of what's been going on with Cardano. I don't think it's a big issue. I don't think it's as catastrophic as maybe led. I mean, yes, for the testnet, it's catastrophic, but it's not catastrophic for Cardano investors up and down the world, up and down the country, or all around the world, wherever we are. And knowing that this is on the testnet and we were fortunate enough to have the delays put in place means that we can correct it, we can fix it, and we can learn from this mistake so that we do not make the same mistake again. Ultimately, price action wise, I'm still expecting some kind of move upwards in a 3-wave structure, probably looking for a 20% bump in price upwards, and then down towards 28 to 34 cents. That's the accumulation point that I have had for quite some time. Not seeing any reason to think otherwise at this particular moment. So everything's looking good, in my opinion, for Cardano. I am not slightly concerned over what's been going on, as long as it's a learning experience and we can take it on the chin and make sure that we do not have those kind of things happen again. Now, obviously, there's going to be exceptions. We're always going to have human error and human intervention. Those things are a given. And eventually, we'll just be able to have better quality control put in place, maybe, to prevent anything reaching the main net. And in this particular case, it's been a bit of a lifesaver with the liquidity aspects and things like that have been going on with Cardano. Okay, so I'm going to leave the video there. If you have found this useful, informative, maybe entertaining at times, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that's going on here at Cheeky Crypto. With all that said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.